Madhavaya Namaha. All right. So in the last class, we had discussed Agni, and I had just quickly gone through this. So as I had told you, there's 13 types of Agni. So you have the liver. Liver is the area where Bhutagnis are situated. That means everything that we're eating is getting broken down. Fats, if you eat something that is fat and protein and carbohydrate and minerals, fiber, all of that gets broken down, right? That broken down process, think the liver enzymes and the bile that is being produced by the gallbladder. These are all Bhutagnis. And we do not do anything to do with Bhutagnis in AC 102. So this is just for information, but we've introduced you to the concept. When you go to AC 107, this is important. But, we are only concerned with this Agni, which is, between, it's in our stomach and it's also in our duodenum. That's what we are concerned with, okay? And then there's also the Dhatu Agni. Think of the Dhatu metabolism, tissue metabolism, the ability of the tissue. I mean, red blood cells are created and then they're destroyed, right? So every tissue has its own metabolism and its own Agni, its ability to replenish and nourish and heal. And that is, for example, Rasa is the plasma portion of the blood and all the waters in the body. So that would be Rasa Agni. Rakta is blood. Mamsa is muscle, Meda is fat. For example, when somebody's Meda Agni is low, then they gain weight. When someone is Meda Agni is impaired, not low, impaired or vitiated, they will have a disease related to bone. When someone has blood issues, their muscle is affected. When they have Mamsa Agni issues, their fat is affected. So in Ayurveda, we follow the Agni in a sequential process. Rasa comes first, and also when body is nourished, the first tissue to be nourished is Rasa, then Rakta. I don't want to use the word tissue and blood and muscle and fat here. It's already given in English. You have to get used to the Sanskrit, so I'm trying to speak in Sanskrit. So the first tissue system that is nourished and produced and created and healed is always the waters of the body, the rasa, followed by rakta, followed by mamsa, followed by meda, followed by asti, followed by majja, and followed by shukra. And after shukra, ojas is produced. And what is ojas? Ojas is responsible for immunity. So if someone has an autoimmune disorder or the immunity is low for whatever reason, then their shukra is not going to produce any reproductive fluids. They won't have a libido. The area would be dry and they won't have any desire to copulate or anything like that. It's gone because it comes when the Agni is high and Agni is normal. If someone has, let's say, when somebody has a nervous system issue, then obviously we have to go back and look at this. So when we go to advanced Ayurveda, these things become complicated, but that's not what we are doing today. We are only concerned with Jataragni, okay? Nothing else for this class. I think we did this. We did this. And I think we talked a little bit about this too. But I'll go back. So what happens when Agni is impaired? Agni gets impaired, okay. Very simple. One of the things that it is not written here, and this is just me, and I've seen so many clients with impaired, every single person who has come to me pretty much has an impaired Agni. An entire Ayurveda consultation is based on Agni, right? So if the Agni is impaired, that leads to disease. And one of the things that I see people doing here is they eat too much protein or, it's a myth. I'll just write animal-based. And that includes milk also. Ayurveda believes in milk, but doesn't mean you have so much milk that you flood your body with it. Because, proteins have to be broken down. And especially I notice it's not like a Vata person doesn't need more. They actually need the most protein. Pittas need normal amount of protein and Kaphas need the least. Kaphas should have less protein. But in America, I have never met someone who eats less protein. And when they're saying, but I can't give up having, chicken 3 times a day because I need my protein. You don't. Even peanuts have protein, even potatoes. It's just because you're used to the texture, you like the taste. Let's call spade a spade. But, just moving someone from an animal-based protein, and I don't tell people, I mean, when my clients are coming to me and I know they're not going to change, I don't tell them, give it up ever, because then they'll run away and they'll never come back. What I tell them is reduce, and especially if Agni is low, I ask them to reduce. I ask them to move to a soup based, if they're going to have animal based protein, have it in a soup rather than, have a lot of flesh. And if they're open to the idea of being vegetarian for a few days, then I go for it. I kind of judge. Especially, you can't have, when the Agni is low or vitiated, you can't have animal-based foods, not even too much milk. And, you can't. When the Agni becomes better, then they can go back to their regular diet. But one of the things I will immediately take off is having animal-based proteins at nighttime. I'll tell them, have a glass of hot milk with some turmeric and cardamom at night. That's your protein for the night. You're done. So that kind of, there's a toxicity. Body will become toxic because it has to produce. And that goes for everything. Eating too much protein or eating too much fat or eating too much carbohydrate. All of these things, body has to then produce enzymes to, the body has to break it down. And Agni means your body does not have the power to break it down. So why is it when we get sick or we've had a surgery or something like that, our Agni is not functioning? For example, after birth of a child, or you have had the flu. How many of you have a big appetite after you've had the flu? Because the Agni is shut down. The body is trying to recover and heal itself. It doesn't want food in the body. So whenever Agni is impaired, the diet should be very light, plant-based, soups, right? Eating too much or too little, eating at the wrong times of the day, eating between meals or skipping meals. And today I'm going to introduce you to a case study. Today we'll start getting into case studies. If you're ready for it. If you want me to wait for another week, I will. Yeah, we're supposed to start case studies next week, but if you want me to get started early, we can. Bad food combinations, stress, ice or cold water with meals. Okay, I know people like to sip wine with meals, and usually they're not, that is the only thing that gives them pleasure. I won't tell them not eat it, but I will ask them to switch from wine to like a, what do you call it, a beer, or I'll ask them to just switch over to having it by itself and not with the meal. But if they can give it up, and especially you do not want to have ice or cold water with meals. It's ice or cold water is like putting cold water on fire, and it'll actually vitiate the Agni, and not exercising. So in India, we'll have our meal, and then it's a thing. I don't know if they still do it. I've been out of India so long, but growing up in India, I mean, I was there till my 20s, and we would all have dinner, and then everybody comes out, and you see everybody going for a little walk in the evening around the block. And then, people are not watching TV. I guess that's what they're doing now. But, people come out and and then you see your neighbors and you say hello. So, going for a walk in the evening, like a very gentle walk. And another reason it's so hot during the day. So this is done. And what Dr. Aparna, if she comes on, is going to do an Agni assessment form with you. This is different than the Agni assessment form we had talked about before. This is a lot more comprehensive. And this is an Agni assessment form that you're going to present to us as a client encounter. This is actually, I even sent a mail about it yesterday. So you're getting started with your client encounters. Your very first client encounter is you. Because you did your Prakriti, Vikriti, your women support form. Now you're going to today do a comprehensive Agni support form. Your second client encounter, whoever it may be your husband or wife or friend or sister or It doesn't matter who it is, male, female. You're going to, obviously, for if it's a male, you're not going to do the women's support form for them. You don't, doesn't, so that doesn't apply. Then you will present that either in class at the end of June. And if you are not able to complete it on time, that's absolutely fine. You can just share it with me, and you can present it via Google Drive and so on and so forth. So this is, all the lectures that we do, we are just, talking heads, and we are imparting you information. The most important thing that you're taking away from this program is that you're able to do an actual client encounter. So I strongly suggest you actually do this client encounter and you present it in class, because then everybody gets, you present it in class, then everybody, and you only get 10 minutes to present it. So we don't want big stories. I did this client encounter. The client was Prakriti was this, Vikriti was this, Agni was this. These were the causative factors. And this is the chikitsa. Now chikitsa, which means protocols, I don't care about. I just want you to do the form, find out the Prakriti Vikriti, and tell me, is it this person having too much coffee? Is that why they have acidity? Are they having too much alcohol? Is that why they have acidity? Is that why they feel so dry? Oh, they have mandagni, or they're constipated. Is it because they're eating a lot of processed and canned foods and from restaurants? Okay, are they having animal-based proteins 3 times a day? Can we reduce it to? So we want to find out what the causative factors are. And you might find out there is nothing to do because the person that you interview doesn't have any Agni issues. So the idea is that you start learning about doing the forms. You might find out, oh, okay, they don't have any Agni issues right now, but moving forward, if they don't stop drinking coffee at nighttime or whatever they do, it'll happen. So that's the idea. So, June 29th, I think, is your last class before we break for summer vacation. So see if you can do this Agni, Prakriti, Vikriti, and Agni form for someone else and present it. So when you share the stuff with us, I don't want you to share the forms, just the result. The result, something like, this was the Prakriti, this was the Vikriti, this was the Agni, and I deduced the Agni because of A, B, and C. That's it. Not big, and you'd only get 10 minutes per person. Yeah. So this is some of the things that you're going to ask your client. And I think some of you have already submitted this form to me. Do you digest your food quickly? Means that after you've eaten, do you actually have a bowel movement within 5 or 6 hours? That's what it means. Or, it's not sitting in your gut, or you do not feel heavy. That's what it means. Is your appetite strong? This is very important because a person who is digesting their food, should have a strong appetite. Also, you can have a person who is overweight and they do not have an appetite, or you can have a person who's really overweight and they have a strong appetite. But herein, we'll talk about appetite in another presentation after this. In general, how is your energy during the day? And especially if you want to talk about energy after they've had a meal. Do you feel heavy after eating? That means if they're eating either too much or they're eating foods that are causing discomfort. Do you often feel sleepy after eating? So heavy and sleepy, not so good. Actually, heavy and sleepy is slightly more normal during this lunchtime because you have a big meal, but it should never be after breakfast and dinner. That means the meal is not okay. That's either the quantity or the quality or the kind of meal they're having. These things over a period of time will lead to Agni becoming vitiated, and then it'll lead to diseases. So we want to nip it in the bud. Do you have problems with the following? Gas, flatulence, belching, bloating, heartburn, acid. Now, sometimes they will say none. And then they tell you, well, I take medicine for heartburn. That's why I don't have heartburn anymore. They do have heartburn. So please ask them, do you have problems when you're not taking medicine? Like, people will say, I'm not constipated, but they're taking laxatives. They are constipated. That's why they're taking laxatives, right? So you want to basically, are they taking something for heartburn or acid or reflux? That's kind of important. And then you want to explain to your clients, are there any foods that you have slight discomfort with? What is discomfort? I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody is not allergic to, let's say, kiwis or strawberries, but if they have kiwis or strawberries, they feel a little heavy after that. So, or I have known people who have some lactose intolerance, but if they have milk with, if they have ice cream, or if they have a small amount of um, milk, which is whole milk or ghee, they find it discomforting, or they might get diarrhea, but they can live with it. You know what I'm saying? It's not an allergy. And then, of course, you want to ask about food allergies. Question there. Let me see. Exactly. Yes, energy level, we have to ask about the caffeine intake. Exactly. That is exactly. How's your energy during the day? And they'll say, oh my God, I have a great energy. Then you want to say, how much coffee do you drink? Well, I have like an espresso I have two espressos in the morning. And then I have one at like 3 p.m. Okay, what would happen if you weren't not to drink those espressos? Well, are you serious? Then I would have seriously low energy. Then answer is low. Or somebody, people, if they're starting the day, I don't consider someone who has 1 cup of coffee really a big deal. It's when it's more than one, and they have to take supplements for energy. That's a problem. But having said that, you have people who have been doing that cup of coffee for years and years and years, and now they're dependent on it. So even just moving from coffee to, even what was it, bulletproof coffee, or moving to tea, which actually cuts the caffeine intake in half, is good. I actually went off, I was drinking at one point, I was taking in, when you're taking exams and board exams, and I get absorbed in my board exams and reading, I started drinking a lot of black tea. And, then I started getting acidity. This was some years ago. And I'm like, why am I getting acidity? And then Atul pointed out, you're having acidity. I said, well, I need to trick my brain. So we switched over from black tea to rooibos or red bush. So it was 90% red bush and like literally a pinch of black tea, just for the color. So I would think I'm drinking tea. So that's pretty much, I still drink one Earl Grey a day. But yeah, I switched over to just drinking rooibos, like a rooibos chai, pretty much. And then voila, it just went off. There was absolutely no acidity after that. Yeah, the thing is, sometimes you have to trick your brain. For example, I had one client the other day, and she drinks a glass of red wine, and she loves the feeling of looking at red wine. And I said, well, I gave her cranberry pomegranate juice for her diarrhea. And I said, put your cranberry pomegranate juice with a little bit of carbonated water, or in a champagne flute glass, and pretend it's a wine. And it's working out for her, because it wasn't the wine itself. It was the whole idea of having it in a glass, and having it with music and sitting out in the garden. It was the whole, the way she used to do it. So, and then she gave it up. And now, yeah, so that worked. So there's a lot of hats, as Ayurveda counselors, you'll have to wear. Any other questions? There are none. So when you say bowel movements tend to be regular, irregular means that you go every single day. That is what we mean, right? And please ask if they take any laxatives right here. If they say yes, they need to take laxatives, then they're irregular, even if they're going every day. How often do you have bowel movements? Usually you'll see less than every 3 days or once for Vata people, and they'll answer usually that if you have a good diet, it's once. If something disturbs them, it can be constipation. You will find the kapha will always be once. You won't find kapha 2-3 times or less. Usually always once. Pitta you will find 2-3 times a day, and if you find a pitta who's getting more than 3 times a day, then pitta might be vitiated. So you want to that it might be Tikshnagni, but you have to ask a few more questions. And then, what time do you have bowel movements? First thing in the morning, later afternoon, at night after dinner, immediately after meals. The reason we ask this is the best bowel movement is first thing in the morning. That means they're regular. And it's good to get that out in the morning. If not, have them start their day with, as soon as they get up in the morning, brush their teeth. That's when people will have their cup of tea or coffee or whenever they're having. Have them have a cup of hot water with honey or hot water with lemon, and or hot water with lemon and triphala is first thing in the morning, and then have their tea or coffee or whatever, and then they'll see that they're and also they can have hot water, hot milk with turmeric and cardamom with a little bit of triphala at night, and then their bowel movements will become regular. So it kind of tells us immediately after meals is not that good, but like a couple of hours after meal is kind of normal for a pitta person. Soft stools are usually seen in pitta, mediums usually seen in kapha, hard and variable seen in vata. Agni Pariksha, bowel movement, sluggish and heavy after eating, dull appetite. So we've already talked about this a little bit last time, that kaphas tend to have one bowel movement, vatas tend to have one or less bowel movement, and pitta 2 to 4, and they have loose stools, you have very hard dry stools, and kaphas tend to have sluggish and heavy. Let's just look at the appetite. The appetite has the same quality as the kapha. Appetite is slow, and it's a kapha type, it's a dull, slow. So vata, visham agni, variable appetite. That means very hungry one morning and no hunger the next morning. Sharp, always a strong appetite. And ama. I'm going to talk about ama in a minute. So yeah, you're supposed to do this test for not 2 persons, just one other person other than yourself. And you're going to present it to us. That's part of your, and then moving forward, we're going to talk about, now, every single time I do a class, I'm asking you to put forum discussions. And if you don't do it, then I cannot do anything about it. You have to do forum discussions. Forum discussions is 30% of the, so 70% marks comes from quizzes and assignments, and 30% marks come from forum. Now, if you do not do the forum discussions, you get 0 in it, and you get, let's say, 65%, so you fail. So I'm sorry to be so blunt. If you don't do forum discussion, you are not passing. So if there's anybody who doesn't do forum discussion, if there is a forum discussion, do you please do it? Okay. And, even if you do a small one, look at this is just 300 words. So one of the forum discussions that would be due for this is discuss Agni. And of course, it's a discussion. We are not expecting you to be right about it. It's a discussion. We want you to take any 2 disorders. So let's say Shujan talks about, maybe he talks about Annavaha Shrotasas in Ayurveda. And so I want everybody to pick one topic. And let's say, Deborah talks about constipation, Evelyn talks about diarrhea, maybe Lauren talks about stomach cramps. So let's give Deborah something hard because she's a nurse. I'm sorry. Let's give her ulcerative colitis. Okay. So everybody pick one, and I want you to do that right now, and we need to discuss that in the forum. Then I'll help you see where it falls in the Agni spectrum. So Agni has a spectrum of Mandagni, Tikshnagni, and it's a little bit more complicated, and nobody has a textbook Agni. So I'll help you. What I want you to do is, do some research and write about it. Don't copy paste from easyayurveda.com. Just in your own words, a couple of lines will do, right? What does that mean? What happens? And we only want to talk about Ayurveda portion, yeah? And then what I want you to do is, okay, is diarrhea, where does it stand in Agni? Constipation, where does GERD stand or ulcerative colitis stand? So everybody this is the last one. So I'm just gonna give, unless you guys call Dobbs on it right now, I'm going to give you one each. How many students are here? Who is taking diarrhea? Please choose right now, and then we're going to discuss that in the forum. AC 102 forum. Let's write that down. And Ama I'm going to be discussing right now. So forget this. We're going to discuss one disorder with respect to Agni, appetite, and Ama. All right. Lauren is stomach cramps. Here we go. I've already given ulcerative colitis to Deborah. Okay, okay, I take it back. You can take whatever you like, Deborah. Evelyn is lactose intolerance. Thank you. You'll enjoy it. I'll help you with it. Um, Shujan? Shujan? Okay, Satya is going to take word. Yes, all the pittas are rubbing their hands. How I can. Annava Shrotas? Anybody taking subdoshas in digestion? Indigestion, okay. Lauren, if you're doing gas, you might as well do flatulence. It kind of goes together, right? Yeah. Anybody doing constipation, diarrhea, or let's see who else we have here. Yeah, so I will give this to Rebecca. And then the gluten subdoshas, I will discuss. We can just discuss it. Manjulali. Subdosha isn't digestion. I'm doing it right now. Manjulali. So one more person take diarrhea. Or do you want me to discuss that one? You want me to discuss diarrhea? Yes? Okay. I'll discuss 3. So here's our final chat. Manjulali is discussing. So the what will happen, after we do the discussion, you will have information about, 9 or 10 different disorders of the GI tract in Ayurveda and how we can help them, right? And so it's kind of you're creating a portfolio. So we can discuss it in the forums, right? So let me save this so that all saved. Okay, this was the last one. And okay, there's another one. Let's do that right now. Very quickly. Mo X, 46-year-old Vata woman, generally suffers from constipation and has dry, hard stools. So she's Vata. She has dry, hard stool. She's 46. She's in, Pitta Vata stage of life, already Vata. She has a bowel movement only with laxatives, salads, raw food, misses meals, and loves drinking coffee. Please tell me what are the causative factors for her dry, hard stools? Okay. Okay. Now, please tell, good job. Now, please tell me what kind of Agni does she have? Yes, thank you. Clear. Let's look at Mr. John. What are the causative factor for his low energy and acid reflux? Let's do the acid reflux first. Why is he getting acid reflux? Good job. Yes, he's eating things that are increasing his pitta, which includes salsa and junk food, and we don't know what is in that junk food, right? Why is he getting low energy? What has low energy got to do with acid reflux? Anybody? What is low energy got to do with reflux? Take a guess. Exactly, Shajan. Basically, when Agni is high, it's going to burn the nourishment, right? Acid, there's so much acid, it's burning the nourishment. And in Ayurveda, we call tejas burning ojas sometimes. So immunity will also eventually go down, and there will be dryness as well. Agni is burned, is high Agni, so much acid, food is not getting absorbed. And I'm not going to explain tejas burning ojas right now, but idea is that the the immunity may go down eventually. Let's look at Riley. I've given you such nice ones, these are easy. In real life, you will see, oh my God, when I find a textbook case of anything, I'm like, yay! I know, like, a person walks in the door, I know already what is wrong, but they've paid me whatever, 70, $80, and I have to sit for the hour. But normally, 8 times out of 10, nobody's a textbook case, let me tell you. Life is complicated. Tell me about Riley. Why is he feeling heavy, sluggish, unable to finish his work on time, unable to concentrate? Kapha is high. Something else is also high. I'm not going to say that. Tell me, what is the unable to concentrate and unable to finish his work? What is happening there in his mind? Anybody? What is happening in his mind? Tamas is happening. He's becoming tamasic. So when a person is heavy and sluggish, their mind tends to be tamasic and prana is affected. And yes, of course, Mandagni. We've already told you heavy sluggish means he's a Mandagni. So does anybody know what tamasic or tamasa means? We've discussed it, I think, in one of the classes. Anybody knows what tamas means? Exactly. When a person has, so there's a tamasic, sattvic, and rajas. Tamas, rajas, and sattva. So when a person is, for example, this Mo, she is constipated, dry, has stool, bowel movement. And when a person is eating all this vata food, their mind will be very rajasic. Should be running around, going like a, you know, bouncing off the walls. That will be normal for Mo X. Uh, like the pitta mind may be very active, and for this person, because he's heavy sluggish, the mind will be tamasic. That's why he's not able to finish his work, not able to concentrate, and this will actually affect his prana because prana is not flowing. Does it make sense? So there's always, your Agni has an effect on your mind. Does it make sense? I think this mock case study was one of the assignments on the, and since people who are attending the class do not need to do it now because you've already done it. All right. Does any questions about these three? Is Agni becoming more clear? Because like I said, Agni is the most important takeaway from this entire, term, 3 months. Okay, perfect. So Agni is done. And let's do same. We're kind of continuing and we're going to talk about doshas and digestion.